A cold drop of sweat slips down your forehead and stings your eye. Your breathing is heavy, resembling the desperate pumping of a bellows. Beneath your feet, the black rubber belt is spinning at a merciless, relentless pace. Thud, thud, thud. You glance down at your smartwatch. Your heart rate has just crossed the 150 mark. Your lungs are screaming, begging for air. You feel as though you have run for miles across vast terrains. But when you look up into the giant, spotless mirror right in front of you, you realize the bitter truth. You are standing in the exact same spot. You haven't reached anywhere. Every single second feels like an eternity. Every neuron in your brain is screaming at you, begging you to just stop, to just step off. But you don't stop. Now, shatter that modern mirror. Remove the cold, comforting blast of the gym's air conditioning and silence the fast-paced electronic music playing in your earphones. Replace that air with the heavy, suffocating stench of damp walls, rotting bread, and dried blood. The year is 1818. The location is a terrifying, pitch-black prison deep in the heart of England. You are not wearing expensive, shock-absorbing sports shoes. Your feet are bare, cracked, covered in blisters, and bleeding. You are stepping onto a colossal, monstrous wooden wheel. Alongside you are dozens of other miserable, starving prisoners. You cannot stop, because if you even pause for a fraction of a second, you will be violently crushed beneath the massive, rotating wooden planks. From the crack of dawn until the dead of night, on an empty stomach, you are climbing this wooden staircase. Every single step is pure, unadulterated torture. You are climbing endlessly, but you are not ascending to anywhere. You are just grinding the wind. Wait a minute. Did you notice something incredibly bizarre about this picture? This is a truth so twisted that it will completely rewire the way you look at your daily routine. The very machine that you currently pay thousands of dollars to run on, the machine you voluntarily step onto to lose weight or stay fit, was never designed for fitness in the first place. On paper, if you look at this behavior of modern humans, it reads like a dark, dystopian comedy. We leave our comfortable homes, sit in our air-conditioned cars, and drive for miles to a gym just so we can climb onto a machine that forces us to run while keeping us pinned to one single spot. But in the dark pages of human history, this was no laughing matter. In the 19th century, the treadmill was notoriously known as the everlasting staircase, and it was specifically engineered with one brutal purpose in mind: to completely crush the souls, the willpower, and the sanity of society's most dangerous criminals, thieves, and murderers. Its objective was not to burn calories. Its objective was to burn human hope. Even the legendary writer Oscar Wilde, when he was imprisoned, was subjected to the mind-numbing torture of this very machine for hours on end. The exact same device that is currently sitting in the corner of your bedroom, acting as an expensive towel rack, or the one you run on while listening to podcasts, was originally one of the most cruel and unusual punishments in human history. So what exactly happened? How did a Victorian torture device seamlessly transform into the absolute god of the modern multi-billion-dollar fitness industry? To uncover the answer to this paradox, we have to look not just at history, but deep into the millions of years old biological code hidden within our DNA. Let us travel back in time, roughly 300,000 years back into the wild, unforgiving savannas of Africa. According to evolutionary biology, the human body is the most magnificent running machine ever created in the universe. We did not possess the razor-sharp claws of predators, nor did we have the explosive, lightning-fast speed of a cheetah. However, we had a secret superpower that no other animal on the planet possessed: the ability to sweat profusely and the mastery of persistence hunting. We could run continuously for hours under the scorching sun until our prey, unable to cool its own body down, simply collapsed from heat stroke and pure exhaustion. But Mother Nature wired our brains in a very specific way. Running was always, without exception, tied to a vital purpose. The early human did not run just for the fun of it, or to get their steps in, or to burn off last night's meal. In the wild, expending massive amounts of energy without a concrete reason meant certain death. When our ancestor ran, they were either sprinting to save their life from a terrifying apex predator, or they were chasing down their next meal to survive. And when they ran, the world around them transformed. Trees rushed past them, rivers were crossed, landscapes shifted. In the language of science, this is known as optic flow. As the visual field changes, our brain receives a constant, comforting stream of signals, confirming that we are moving forward, that we are progressing, that we are achieving something. And when we finally reached our destination or caught our prey, our brain flooded our system with a massive, rewarding dose of dopamine. Now, compare this deeply ingrained ancient biological process to running on a treadmill. When you are on a treadmill, your body body is expending the exact same amount of intense energy. Your muscles are contracting and expanding violently, but your optic flow is absolute zero. The scenery in front of your eyes remains completely static. The most ancient reptilian part of your brain gets thrown into a state of profound confusion. Your body is desperately shouting, "We are running for our lives," but your eyes are calmly replying, "No, we are just staring at a blank wall." This is precisely why every single minute spent on a treadmill feels exponentially more exhausting, draining, and mind-numbingly boring than running outside in a park or on a trail. It goes against millions of years of our evolutionary programming. You are running a race with no destination, and running without a destination doesn't just tire the body, it breaks the mind. And this specific, delicate psychological vulnerability is exactly what 19th century England decided to exploit. At the dawn of the 19th century, the prisons of England were overflowing with criminals. Inmates were largely sitting idle in cramped, squalid cells. The British government, driven by Victorian morals, believed that an idle mind was the devil's workshop and that this very laziness was the root cause of all criminal behavior. They desperately needed a method to force the prisoners into hard, unpaid labor while simultaneously inflicting a punishing sentence. Then, in the year 1818, a brilliant but ruthless British engineer named Sir William Cubitt drafted the blueprint for a new machine. He named it the Treadwheel. It was an elongated, massive, hollow wooden cylinder with stepping boards built into the outside. Prisoners were forced to stand shoulder to shoulder on these steps. As soon as they placed their weight on a step, the colossal wheel would rotate downwards, forcing them to quickly step up onto the next board. If they failed to keep the rhythm, they would fall and risk being mangled by the machinery below. Often, this menacing contraption was hooked up to a mill mechanism used to grind grain or pump water out of mines, which is exactly how it earned the infamous name, the Treadmill. You might be thinking to yourself, what is so horrific about that? People willingly climb on the Stairmaster at the gym every single day. You need to understand the sheer, unadulterated scale of this cruelty. According to strict prison regulations, an inmate was forced to walk on this treadmill for 6 to 10 grueling hours a day. Let that sink in. To put that into perspective, an average prisoner was climbing roughly 14,000 vertical feet every single day. That is the equivalent of climbing more than halfway from the base camp of Mount Everest to its peak every single day of their sentence. And what was their fuel for this Herculean task? Nothing but meager rations of water and stale, dry bread. Due to severe malnutrition, horrific physical exhaustion, and extreme dehydration, prisoners would routinely black out and collapse while walking on the treadmill. Many suffered agonizing deaths, their limbs crushed in the unforgiving gears of the machine. But the true horror of the treadmill was not physical. The ultimate torture was entirely psychological. Cubitt and the prison wardens soon realized that grinding grain actually gave the prisoners a sliver of purpose. It made them feel like they were producing something. The real sadistic pleasure of torture lies in stripping away all purpose. Therefore, in many high-security prisons, the treadmills were intentionally disconnected from the grain mills. The giant wheels were rigged to do absolutely nothing. They just spun endlessly in the empty air. Imagine pouring 10 hours of your absolute maximum physical strength, dripping in sweat and blood, only to see the result of your back-breaking labor amount to zero. Absolutely nothing. The philosopher Albert Camus wrote about the myth of Sisyphus, a man cursed by the gods to push a massive boulder up a mountain for eternity, only to watch it roll back down right before he reaches the top. The 1818 treadmill was the 19th century equivalent of Sisyphus' curse. It forced a human being to physically internalize the feeling that their entire existence, their immense struggle, was completely and utterly meaningless. The sheer terror and misery inflicted by this machine reached such heights that the public began referring to it as the monster machine. Eventually, a wave of prison reform swept through the nation, and under the Prison Act of 1898, the treadmill was officially banned in British prisons, deemed excessively cruel and inhumane. The torture device was dismantled and thrown into the dark, dusty dustbin of history. But the story does not end there. In fact, it takes a twist so bizarre it defies logic. For nearly 70 years, the machine vanished from human consciousness. Then came the 1960s. America was undergoing a massive cultural and physical shift. People were increasingly sitting behind desks for 8 hours a day, driving everywhere, and lounging in front of televisions. The population was rapidly gaining weight, and heart disease was skyrocketing into a national epidemic. In the midst of this crisis, a physician named Dr. Kenneth introduced a radical new concept to the world, a concept he he famously named aerobics. He argued that for humans to survive this sedentary lifestyle and protect their hearts, they needed to artificially elevate their heart rates on a regular basis. During this exact time, in 1968, a mechanical engineer named Bill Staub read Cooper's groundbreaking book. He pondered a simple logistical problem. If the weather outside is terrible, or if a neighborhood isn't safe for a jog, how can a person run indoors? And so, in a moment of ironic genius, Staub reached deep into the dustbin of human history, pulled out the blueprints of that barbaric 19th century torture device, attached an electric motor to it, and unleashed the world's very first home treadmill, the PaceMaster 600. The exact same machine that was legally banned for completely destroying the human soul was now being mass-produced, marketed, and sold for billions of dollars as a miraculous, life-saving health device. This is the grandest, most bitter irony of our modern society. What have we actually accomplished in the last 100 years in the name of civilization and progress? We meticulously and systematically engineered every single ounce of natural physical movement out of our daily lives. We replaced the act of walking with automobiles. We replaced the arduous tasks of hunting, gathering, and farming with air-conditioned supermarkets and instant food delivery apps on our smartphones. We learned how to manipulate the temperature of our environments with the push of a button. We successfully banished physical exertion from our reality. But our bodies, the very DNA coiled within our cells, that code still belongs to the ancient hunter-gatherer of the African savanna, a biological machine desperate to run. When we stripped away our natural movement, our bodies began to decay from the inside out. Modern diseases of comfort began to consume us. And how did we choose to solve this self-inflicted crisis? Did we dismantle the concrete jungle and return to nature? Absolutely not. We came up with the most classic, absurdly modern solution possible. We purchased an artificial machine and shoved it into our artificial lives to simulate the natural movement we destroyed. The treadmill is the ultimate, undisputed symbol of modern capitalism. We sit completely still in a highly ergonomic chair all day, staring blankly at a glowing screen, just so we can earn enough money to pay a monthly subscription to a gym where we can hop onto a motorized belt and run in place while staring at another glowing screen. We took the beautiful, wild, and incredibly natural act of running and mutated it into an isolated, boxed-in task on a to-do list. We are running harder and faster than ever before, but we are absolutely going nowhere. Today, when you lace up your sneakers and start jogging on the treadmill, you are not a legally condemned prisoner. You do not have heavy iron shackles wrapped around your bleeding ankles. But ask yourself this: are we truly free? We have meticulously built a cage of supreme comfort and convenience all around us. A cage so plush, so incredibly soft that we don't even realize we are locked inside it. When a pet hamster, trapped in a tiny glass enclosure, runs frantically on its plastic wheel for hours on end, it doesn't do so because it has a fitness goal. It does it because its deep biological wiring is screaming at it to move, to migrate, to explore, but it has absolutely no open space left in its world to actually do so. Have we not simply become the human equivalent of that hamster? We run purely to burn off the excess, stagnant energy that we have accumulated from a sanitized world where we no longer have to struggle to survive. We run on these motorized belts in a desperate attempt to silence the primal, ancient human buried deep inside us. The wild ancestor who even now dreams of sprinting under the vast, open canopy of a starry night sky. The next time you step into the gym and plant your feet on that machine, and the moment that thick rubber belt begins to mercilessly slide beneath you, close your eyes and listen closely to the rhythm. Thud, thud, thud. That sound is not just the impact of your expensive running shoes hitting the deck. That is the haunting echo of the terrifying prisons of 1818. That is the agonizing cry of evolution whispering that the human spirit was never meant to be confined to a single spot. And above all else, it is the ultimate, undeniable proof of just how profoundly absurd the human condition truly is, that we have willingly taken the very instrument of our historical imprisonment, and we now proudly ride it every single day as the modern symbol of our freedom.